Welcome into another episode of the Yachts and Audibles podcast. It's a Monday. I'm Erik Skopil, Jared Mack on the show, and unfortunately, Matt Preem takes a vacation early February. A lot to talk about, not on the show. We figured we needed a third leg here, third wheel, so to speak. So, managing editor of Ducks Wire and the host of the Going Long podcast, which just debuted, a couple weeks ago? Zach
A
Neel is
few weeks, I
here.
think it was about a month ago, yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't remember. Timeline, everything moves so quickly. I was like one of your first guests. So whatever it was, I have some recollection of it. Good to have you, Zach. I think this is your first time on our little podcast here.
First time on the podcast, happy to be on. I actually had both of you guys on my Going Long podcast, and to this date, those are two of the most recorded episodes we have. So thank you guys very much. We appreciate it.
Our pleasure. I mean, we're just here to boost numbers, man. We'll get you out of the gutter soon enough.
We're numbers boosters. It's a Monday. Usually we do mailbags on Monday, but we're switching it up. We're getting creative. The boss is on vacation, so we figured we'd throw something different at you. With the 2023 signing class essentially intact and finishing up, about 5 days ago, with one addition, Roderick Pleasant in the spring. We figured we'd do something different. This is a debut podcast concept. This is a superlative signing day snake draft. Unfortunately, I just noticed our little faces are in the wrong order for how we're going to do this, I guess, but that's okay.
Can you swap
that? Matt knows how to do that. I'm not as familiar. We're just gonna roll with it.
That's fine.
Totally fine with me. The listeners sue us if you want. But basically, the concept here is there's 5 superlatives we're using. We have the entirety of the 2023 signing class to choose from, about 30 players, which is crazy to think about. And you can only use each player once. We're going to give Zach Neel the honorary first position here to start because he is our guest. Jared will go second. I'll go third. Because I go third, I'll also start the next round, so I'll have a repeat of 2 picks. Mm-hmm. Again, I could only each player is only used for once in one category only. The 5 categories are we kind of just threw this together last night, so I hope you like these categories. We all kind of noted one of them is really tough. Couple basics here. We've got immediate impact guys. That's one of the superlatives. We've got the sleeper pick. Those are pretty self-explanatory. We've got what I've written down is most excited to watch with the football. Probably also pretty self-explanatory.
The honorary 7 McGee category.
There you go.
He's always that answer the last couple of years.
Yep. The DeAnthony Thomas many years before that. We've got a special teams category who's going to help on special teams, which I think is especially important considering what's been Oregon's special teams issues the last couple of years. And then the 5th one I think we all kind of had a hard time with, which was the last one we picked. We just kind of threw it together because it's fun, is who's going to be like the all PFF guy. From this class. I think that's the toughest one, so I'll be curious to see what the strategy is. So Zach gets to go first. He could pick any category at any player to fill that category. I will be keeping track and making sure we don't have any repeats. Jared will then go second. I'll go third and fourth, and we'll go from there. So Zach, without further ado, the first pick of the 2023 Odds and Audibles Oregon Signing Day Superlative Snake Draft is yours.
Man, that really just rolled off the tongue for you, that title there.
It really, felt so natural. It felt so natural.
I am really excited to have the first pick. Thank you for giving it to me as the guest because I'm happy to take this player away from Erik. He's the one who turned me on to him. I'm taking my immediate impact player is Kenyon Sadiq. I think that I know you guys have talked on the podcast. I've talked on my podcast about how tight end is really still a need for Oregon. There's only 3 scholarship players right now. They're probably going to add someone via the transfer portal later when the window opens in May. But because of that depth, I think that Kenyon's in a position where he could really step up and actually have a role as a true freshman. I don't know that there's many people in this signing class that could actually see, a lot of the field as a true freshman, but he's someone that I could really see, having a role in this offense with the way that, we knew how Kenny Dillingham used tight ends, but not really Will Stein yet, but we think it's going to be somewhat similar. So we've seen his game tape. I'm really excited to watch him in an Oregon uniform. And I think that he could be someone that really, really has a big impact on the team this year.
He was number 1 on my board as well. That would have been my number 1 overall pick too. Just FYI.
Yes.
I have I have a question on the rules, just a clarification. So when Neel's used Sadiq, that's it for everybody. No one can use.
You couldn't use Sadiq for most exciting or special teams ace or PFF. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay.
And he doesn't qualify. He doesn't qualify for biggest sleeper, which, by the way, did we say on the podcast only 4 or 5 stars? You can't do 3. You can use only 3 stars for the biggest sleeper.
Only 3 stars, not 4 or 5.
Not 4 or 5. Yeah.
Right.
Erik, were you going to use him as the immediate impact or somewhere else?
I was going to use him. He was the top of my immediate impact board, and that was where I was hoping to go pick 3. So now we.
I'm very happy that I got it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, good start, Jared. Now it's up to you to spoil my draft board even more.
Yeah, this is tough. There needs to be some strategy in this because once I use somebody who might be a top pick for another board, this is tough. I think I'm going to go with my number 2 overall selection here in the Impact Edition, Johnny Cornelius, Rhode Island. I think he's going to be an immediate impact guy.
Hold on.
You said
we're breaking rules here.
I thought it was prep only.
You said prep and JUCO to me last night.
Oh, but he's not JUCO.
He's not JUCO. He's Rhode Island.
He's a transfer. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Apologies. I'm trying to break rules again.
That was to allow Silva to be included, who I think is also a worthy candidate for that particular category.
I'm breaking rules again. My bad.
Because Cornelius is just like, boom.
He's an impact guy.
I'll take Jordan Birch then.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going to. Oh man,
it makes it tough.
Yeah, I'm gonna save a pick potentially here. I'm gonna go with Blake Purchase. He's my guy. I'm sticking to him to the very end. I think it's an impact ad because it's an edge position, and Oregon, while deeper now at edge, still has a lot of question marks behind Jordan Birch. I mean, yeah, you have Mace Funa as most likely the backup. That's my guy in the defensive 2 deep. But after him, where does it come from? And I think Oregon's going to have a really good battle between guys like Purchase, guys like Amarion Winston, maybe if Jake Shipley moves back over to edge, Anthony Jones, who's a freshman last year with Winston. I think Purchase, if you watch his film, you kind of wonder why the gap is so high in his online on his 24/7 sports recruiting profile, because the top 247 has him, I think, as a top 140, top 150 player in the country, while the composite has him in the mid 200s, like bottom 200. So there's a huge gap there. But once you watch his skill set and you watch how he runs on the field and you watch his movements and his production value, he's a dude. I think he steps up and makes an immediate impact right away at Oregon.
I like the pick. I didn't have him in my top 4 of my immediate impact guys, to be honest with you. But I was hoping to snag him in another category later. So I get 2 picks now, and I wasn't expecting both of them to be
so
here.
Jared, in other words, Erik likes the pick, but he hates the pick because he was nowhere on his board.
Yes,
that's good. That's good sub commentary by Neel. My most excited to watch with the football is where I'm going to go with, and I'm just going to take Jurion Dickey off the board. That removes the top candidate for a couple other categories.
It does,
and it's also
it
was also my top pick on most excited to watch with football guy. So I'm very excited about that. And then special teams ad, I feel like I'm cheating here, but I'm going to take the punter they just added.
Luke?
I had a question about him. Do we even know what year he is? Is he a prep? I was unsure.
Zach, can I be honest? I had to look up and make sure I had his first name right before we recorded this, just to make sure.
Oh, come on.
Well,
Luke Dune.
I think it looks like, I don't know. Is it Dune? Is it Dune?
Could be Dune.
I don't know.
Whatever. We'll find out in spring.
But, I didn't know he was real for like a week, so it's okay.
Well, that's why.
I still don't think he is.
Yeah, that's why he's. I feel like such there's so little known about him. I guess it comes down to me here to maybe try to get him on the phone, because I was able to get good old Tom Signee on the phone after he signed with Oregon. I might maybe that's an exercise I'll get working on here after the podcast. But no, I expect he's probably going to be their punter. I mean, considering how terrible everything else went this last year, they have no scholarship punters on roster. They've added him on scholarship. Seems very likely he's a contributor. And then, as I said with Dickey, I take the 5-star off the board for you guys. Plus, I get my top pick for most excited to watch with the football. All right, Jared, back to you. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy.
I like that one. Special teams ace. Jumping right into it.
Yeah.
Roderick Pleasant.
That was my
Give it
number
to
2.
me. Yeah.
That was my
I have
number
no
one.
idea if he'll be a special teams ace, but he's got the best skill set to do it. He's really quick, really fast, north-south. That's exactly what you need in a gunner. I think we should rename this to the Hockey Woods Award because he was that guy. He was a wonderful gunner for Oregon back in the day. And if you get that out of Roderick Pleasant, that's going to be perfect. I just thought that he was, I don't know, of what I have left for, I think that was like my best go. I think we're already down to special teams aces here on this podcast, but I think it's a perfect pick. No offense.
He was number 2 on my board, and why I also think it's good is definite return guy skill set based on tape.
Yeah.
He was a really good returner at I can't pronounce the name of the school he went to. Sierra Junipero. Sierra.
Yeah.
That school.
Sure.
It's a really good school down in Southern California that's produced a ton of talent. But
it's in Gardena.
It's in Gardena, and he was an excellent return man there. So I like that pick a lot. He was actually, when I conceived the category, I was like, that's who I thought of, and I was like, wait, there's a punter on the team as well who will probably help on special teams. All right,
yeah,
Zach,
Jared, if you did not take him, he was going to be my very next pick. So good on you to steal that one from me.
All right, Zach, you get 2 here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with my game breaker with the ball. I'm going to go Dante Dowdle. I think that based on, I don't know how much playing time he's going to get because that running back room is really stacked, but he I think he take like role from James, because I think James would be elevated a little to more of a every down back role instead of that 14J package. But based on Dowdle's tape from high school, I think that he's could be a really, really, really good player down the road in Oregon. And before we clarified the long-term sleeper was non-blue chip players, he was going to be my answer for that too, because I think that he's going to have a really great career at Oregon. I can see that happening. So yeah, he's someone that I can't wait to see just what he does at the college level when he gets the ball in his hands.
I think that's a really strong pick. Big fan of his film.
So, and then
it gets tough right here, man. These are the hardest categories, I think.
I think I'm going to go with my guy that PFF will love.
Oh, okay.
I think it's going to be Dalen Austin. I think that he's going to be a really... Yes, I love it. I love that reaction from you guys.
That was my guy.
I'm excited to see him. I think he's another true freshman that, might get a little bit of run as a rotational player in that secondary. So I think that maybe I'm buying into the hype and the propaganda because his, commitment video with the interview from Dan Lanning talking about how much he wanted him and how much he had to have him. I saw that. I was like, yeah, I'm in. I think this guy's going to be really good. So, we could get into determining what PFF actually loves. I don't know. That's kind of a crapshoot, but I think he's going to be a really good player. And I think he'll hold his own in the secondary.
Well, I'll note that PFF liked Oregon secondary a lot more than we liked Oregon secondary this last year. So it stands to reason that PFF would like anyone in the secondary based upon this last season where, again, like on defense, PFF thought everyone Oregon secondary was good and everyone everywhere else was not.
Yeah, I have to say, I had Dalen Austin was my number 1 PFF guy after I realized that we're no longer doing transfers in this. And so I had Dalen Austin as my number 1. I picked him because of his size and his speed. I mean, he's we talked about how fast Roderick Pleasant is, and don't get me wrong, he's very quick. Dalen Austin is fast in his own right, and he's 2 inches taller, and he weighs a couple more pounds. I think he's like, if I had to, kind of gun to my head, he's probably the more likely freshman of the 2 to jump into the rotation just because of his size already. But I thought that was a clear guy for the number 1 for the PFF, the nerd category. I'm going to be struggling for that one later.
Where are you going with yours?
Yeah, I was happy to get that out of the way.
Yeah. There's one name on the board that's still massive.
Yeah.
But I don't know where to put him.
Exactly.
Because we can't do 2 of each category, right?
No. We didn't do a wild card category, which maybe in future drafts we can do, where you can do like a 6 that's just wherever. But yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah, I think I got one here. I'm gonna go with the guy I'm most excited to watch touch the football, and in this case, catch the football. I'm going with Matteo Uiagalelei.
Oh,
Whoa!
There is the off chance that our dear friend Will Stein from
Okay.
UTSA, go Roadrunners, meet me, will put Matteo Uiagalelei in the tight end position. Zach Neel, you talked about how the tight end position needs to be filled in this offseason. Maybe you're looking at it. Maybe Matteo is going to be a two-way guy. The Shohei Ohtani of the Pac-12, Matteo Uiagalelei. Now, this was a kid who did play tight end in high school and is, I don't know what he's listed at, but he's probably, like 6'6", 250 pounds. 6'5", 265 on his 24/7 page. That's tight end height and weight, if you ask me. Sadiq is more of a pass-catching tight end, which we went over earlier, and Matteo could be somebody who, I don't know, does both. We'll find out. I wouldn't want to do it, but that's my pick.
Jared has Young Concrete going to offense. I like it.
Young Concrete.
Great name, by the way. That is his. I think it's his rap name. That disappoints me. That was a very easy pick for my immediate impact guy, which I was hoping to address right now. So that throws me for a bit of a loop. I get 2 picks here, so I'm going to just take my top sleeper off the board. It's been since I went and watched him at Sheldon High School, somebody I've been really excited about, and that's Tatum Tuioti.
I see.
We're
going composite.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, are we not going composite? Are you trying to take him? Are you taking him off the board as a 4-star because he's a 4-star on the 24/7?
Well, Erik, let me ask you a question. If you were to write a Tatum Tuioti story, would you write him as a 3 or a 4-star?
I've always used the composite, which was actually the reason that I got into.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, and let's just say a family member of an Oregon signee who's no longer with the program, and I got into a real argument about how I was. I'll tell you guys who it is off camera. They jumped in my DMs when I classified this player as a 4-star, even though they were a 5-star on our site. And then we had a long argument about it. And I said it's consistency, so I use the composite.
I remember that story.
Yeah,
I always go with whoever's highest.
Yeah, I try to.
One.
Yeah, maybe I should, but I'm just.
No. We'll let you keep it. I think it's a good pick.
Okay.
Yeah, no, go for it. He was on my board too because I saw that he was a 3-star in one of them. I was like, all right, I'll take it.
I think everything I've heard, and I hear a little bit more, is because he's local. Is just really positive about character of who he is, but also just how explosive and dynamic he is. Again, this is long-term sleeper, so I don't anticipate he has much of any role probably in the first year, maybe even first couple. But this is a player who I think can be really explosive off the edge. He's only about 225, 230. He looks pretty lean, but I think a couple years from now, you could be looking at a game wrecker who's in the 250 range and somebody who could really be an impact guy. So I'm really high on Tatum. And again, talking to some of the 24/7 sports recruiting West Coast guys, I think it was Brendan Huffman who told us, like, kind of, I don't want to say off record, so I don't think I'm breaking any trust here because it's not like a story that's really wild, but just like Brandon basically said, it's very rare that you talk to coaches and 7-on-7 people around the state of Oregon. There's a consensus with the top players that they're really good. And he said this is one of the first guys in a handful of years, going back to I think Talanoa Hufanga, that everyone in the state's like, yeah, that guy's a guy. So there's a lot of buzz around Tatum about what he can be, and I think it's not surprising that he did move up to a 4-star on the 24/7 side of things. But on the composite, he still qualifies, and I'm taking him for my sleeper.
Real quick before you move on, he's someone else that I think could potentially switch over to tight end as well. I mean, he played tight end at Sheldon a little bit, and I think that, if we're going back to that,
so we have a new
conversation of filling needs. Yeah, who's the most dynamic player?
most likely to play tight end.
Yeah, I think it should be who's most likely to play tight end.
I've seen he's got some pass catching skills. So
you're gonna pick Cole. I'm gonna pick Austin Novosad as most likely to play tight end. Gosh, so I've got immediate and PFF left.
Yep.
Makes it tough here because I'm not competing with you guys for immediate impact guys, but you could take that player in a different category.
Right. Sort of.
I don't think you're going to take my guy. I think he's going to be there, so I'm going to avoid using that guy, and I'm going to go with my PFF. You guys are taking all the good PFF people too already. Gosh, this is tough. All right, screw it. I'll do it. I think sometimes PFF really favors people who are really good at one thing, and I expect this person to be really good at one thing. So I'm taking Iapani Lalalu
Yes.
as my PFF
Oh.
because I think he's going to be an absolute road grader, and he's going to be like a 93 on run blocking, and probably not great everywhere else because I
And
do have
nothing
some
else,
plans. But like you guys took all the PFF guys I liked, not all of them. He was like 4th on my board, but a lot of the other guys have already gone off. And I was just looking around at who might be left, and I have him down. I have Novosad down. It's hard to pick a quarterback without really knowing, I guess, exactly like if he'll ever play. And I guess I don't know if Pani will either. But just watching his tape, I came away thinking like he's pretty damn technically sound. He is a brick wall. Legitimately about as wide as an offensive lineman. Like it's cartoonish almost how wide he is.
He's huge.
And I think at some point he gets on the field and he's a really good run blocker. And PFF is like he's a 93 run blocker, and maybe he's not great everywhere else, but PFF's going to really like his run blocking. So I will take Iapani there, and now I only have to find an immediate impact guy. I'm on the stepstones of the finish line here.
You really
Was that your
are.
second? Yeah, you've got one more pick, but not now, right? Okay.
Yeah, no.
So I've got my last 2 here, right?
Jared gets to go first.
I'm going first, and then you have your last 2.
Oh, that's what it is.
And then I got one more.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
This is a tough one. I have sleeper and PFF guy. It's a tough one. I'm trying to think of.
Jared, would you like it if I threw it to a break? Would that give you time to think?
I think we should throw it to a break regardless, but yes.
All right. And we're going to take a break from this episode of the Odds and Audibles podcast to give Jared an extra 15 seconds to think. Welcome back to the Odds and Audibles podcast. Jared, you've had ample time to make a decision. The clock is still on you. We don't actually have a clock, but I guess you could. I guess you could take an hour if you wanted. Please don't. We've got other things to do.
Please
we don't have enough time. Really, I'm thinking about which person I could make a more compelling argument for no one's purpose except for the listeners and YouTube. So I know you guys don't care about it. I'm gonna go sleeper pick here.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Solomon Davis.
Ooh, I like it.
A athlete prospect according to 24/7 Sports out of Southern California. Davis was a late addition to the class. He's listed at 6 feet, 185 pounds. I'm still not entirely sure where he's going to be playing this next year. He played wide receiver in high school, and he played cornerback in high school. Either way, I think those are good spots for him to land. I think he has the length. I think he has the speed. I think he has the athleticism to grow into one of those roles. With the numbers at cornerback and the numbers at wide receiver, would probably make more sense for him to enroll as a wide receiver. Then you get a 6 foot, 6'1", 185 pound true freshman receiver. I think it's a good pickup. I know that his primary recruiter was Demetrius Martin, so that makes me think maybe it's a cornerback or a safety position, which is where my superlative comes in here for the sleeper pick. I think Solomon Davis, if he sticks at safety, depending on the numbers, I think he could become somebody who's an impact guy down the road. I'm saying year 2, year 3, just because of his length and his size. I think becoming a safety is an automatic, like, oh, this guy could just jump right in and play center field for Oregon and just go and run down passes and just jump and try to bat the ball down. So I like him. I think he's a 3-star. I think he's a top 700 player in the country. I think it's a good pickup for Oregon. I think that he could be somebody in year 3.
Could also be a nickel. I think
could also be a nickel.
Possibility of that. Yeah. I thought he was so under the radar that he totally. I mean, he's like the definition of a sleeper because he signed on signing day after Oregon landed some 5-stars, one of which didn't sign, and nobody noticed or really paid any attention to it. It was just a total afterthought. So yeah, that's probably genuinely, Jared. That might be the first time we've mentioned his name on a podcast.
Yeah, it's probably like the second or third. I feel like we probably mentioned him like on the signing day podcast.
I don't know if we did. I think there was so much going on with Peyton Bowen and Mateo and all of that we might have just glossed over him entirely.
Well, if you're a listener out there and you'd like to siphon through all of the podcasts that we've done in the last couple of weeks, please let us know. Give us a word count on how many times I say and then we'll just keep going on the podcast. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And don't forget to ask Matt about his tattoo sleeve on his right arm. That's something we need you to do.
the sleeve on his right arm, please.
We'll tell you
Neel,
about
you've
that.
seen it, you know.
Yeah, totally. Same with James's leg tattoo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's some surprising tattoo aficionados in the Oregon beat right now. Surprises people.
And the Oregon coaching staff, if you want to get there. But
Yeah. Very true. That's even more notable. Yeah.
Not wrong.
we don't need to get there, but
All right, Zach.
Please.
Let's get this back on track.
all right.
I've got one pick
My
left.
final two picks. 2 picks, right? Yeah, I got long-term sleeper and special teams ace. I'm going to start with long-term sleeper. I'm going to go with Jerry Mixon, linebacker Jerry Mixon. I think that if we're talking about positions of need, tight end, and I think linebacker somewhere else, they could also, stand to add a player or two because they're not completely deep and filled up there. But, he's got good size on him. He's, I think, 6'2.5", 220. Lower rated player when you look at just in terms of this class because it's a pretty nice class. But I like him. I like his mobility. He's got pretty good high school tape. I think that he's someone that could come in and, with coaching from Dan Lanning and Tosh Sapoy, I think he could actually have a pretty nice career at Oregon. And I don't think that he'll get on the field much in year one or maybe even year two, but I think down the road he's going to be a nice player.
I like that pick. I had Mixon as a special teams ace. He's
considered
another
him
quick
for that
guy.
too.
And, he used to play running back. He's kind of a bowling ball out there on the field. I feel like he can get down the field and lay some wood out there. I like that pick.
He was he was on the list for my sleepers, but I got my favorite guy, so I didn't have to debate too much. But good pick.
Who was your sleeper again? I forget.
Tatum too.
Hasn't picked it.
Oh, it was Tatum. Yeah, he was.
What do you have left, Erik? Impact?
I have immediate impact. So
all right,
see what happens.
Let me get my special teams, and then you can get your immediate impact. My special teams ace is Cody DeCambra. I think that he's someone who quick, got a nose for a football. He's, I don't know that he's going to get too much into the safety rotation, but he's someone that I see, really excelling in special teams and getting some tackles there and making some plays and then proving that he's, he needs to have a role in year two. He's someone that I think is a pretty highly rated player out of Las Vegas. And I'm just pretty excited to see what he can do. And he's someone that, I really see fighting for a spot and making it so that coaches have to keep him on the field in whatever way that they can.
It's a good pick. Another good one.
Yeah, no, I think we see so frequently guys, as you said, make impacts on special teams, and that's a sign of things to come on defense and in other roles. So, and DeCambra is somebody who I know people are really high on in the recruiting industry, but it's put a ton of work to get where he is, and I'm excited to see what he can do. That's a guy I also, if he qualified, would have considered for the long-term sleeper, just because I think it's unlikely he has much of any role early, but by the end of his career, I think he'll be an impact guy on defense too.
All right. What do I got? I got PFF guy.
You sure do.
I sure do. I think this is pretty easy. I'm surprised this man is still on the board. George Silva. PFF guy. Erik, I knew that was your man as soon as you started.
That was my immediate impact guy to finish up with. Yeah.
I'm sure it was. Silva, top 5 player in the country out of the JUCO ranks, number 1 offensive tackle in the country out of the JUCO ranks. It'll be interesting just because Adrian Klemm left right before we started to record this podcast. So that happened. But anyways, Silva, I mean, he's really good. I really like his tape. He kind of mauls people. I know it's at the JUCO level, so you kind of take it with some grain. But Oregon's had their great share of success in recent memory, getting JUCO offensive lineman Malasala Almuava Lalu, and you have TJ Bass.
Well done.
You have thank you. I've been practicing. You have some real guys, and I think Silva is right up there with Big Sala. I mean, Sala's tape at I forgot where he went to junior college, but that was really fun to watch because he just absolutely annihilated people. But Silva moves really well. I expect him to really compete for one of the tackle spots. He's got good size too at 6'7", 295. Erik and I, we've talked about this on the podcast before about how last year, other than Josh Connerly, Oregon did not have any tackle body types. Well, this year they'll have a couple guys coming in, and Silva is going to be one of them. So I would expect him to compete with Johnny Cornelius, my first-round pick, and Josh Connerly and a couple other guys for the either starting tackle or backup tackle.
It would have been such a good pick for my immediate impact category. It would have been such a good immediate
You would
impact.
have.
To
If only you
especially,
took him earlier over.
well, I was
I don't
looking
know.
up at the board and I was thinking that was the only place he'd land because he wasn't going to be. I was pretty sure he wasn't going to be Zach's sleeper pick because that wasn't a possibility. He couldn't be a special teams pick, so only spot he could land was. I was being strategic, I thought, by taking my PFF guy to then be able to maybe take my immediate guy because Zach couldn't take him and you were the only person who could, and I wasn't sure what you would do there. I was taking a flyer. I thought the odds were. I thought the odds were decent. He'd be there. I was thinking I had plus odds there that he'd be there still. This is really challenging now. This is the Mr. Irrelevant of our draft here. This is the last pick. We're only this by the way, we didn't know how long this is going to take. We've only gone 30 minutes, and because there's some Klemm news, I think we might want to take a little bit of time after this. Zach, if you have a little bit of time after.
Happy to. Yeah.
Jump into that after I finish my pick here, and then we kind of recap our draft and maybe go over some final thoughts. Oh boy, the thing is, there's not a lot of guys who I actually have a clear path to being immediate impact players that are remaining on Oregon's list. So now I try to identify who that could be. And I'm going to go with some of the defensive line because, frankly, I don't really see candidates anywhere else. And I really like some of these defensive linemen. Can I take like 4 guys and just take the best of those?
No.
You can.
No.
I was going to say you can take 4 guys and combine them together. How about that?
Yeah. So in that case, I will take a player named Johnny Bowens, Ashton Porter, Amari Washington, Terrence Green. That's one player.
Yeah.
Wow.
Out of that group,
Five-star.
If you combine all of his recruiting ranking numbers up, he is the best recruit of all time.
Even better than Trevor Lawrence? Are you sure?
I don't know. Well, yeah. If you add up
Arch Manning,
the score, he's actually that player is like a 3.43 as opposed to these guys with 0.989s.
Yeah.
I'll go with Johnny Bowen. He's the most highly rated of the group. Yeah. I think that he's also the most clearly defined of like I think he's playing same place Dorless plays more than likely, based upon size and kind of position he's played in high school. Probably going to be a defensive end. Could he push Trevin Maai to be the backup and then parlay that into a starting role the next couple of years? Top 220 player in the country, big recruit out of Texas. So I'll go Johnny Bowens. He wasn't on my board when I started this exercise because I thought I was going to take immediate impact early, and then it just kind of fell to me in a way that I really like how I started. I don't know how, because I got my 3 top guys on my board at sleeper, most excited to watch with the football and special teams, but then I really had to sort of stretch it here for my last 2 with PFF and immediate. All right, do you want to recap these and we kind of give some thoughts, and then we'll run into some Klemm stuff?
Sure.
How's that work for you? Okay. Zach, I want you to grade your draft after we
God.
this. Maybe we all go around and grade drafts. We just go ahead and
okay.
Jerks do this. All right, Zach,
grade ourselves.
Yeah, grade ourselves. As Dan Lanning says, it's important to that's one of his tenets is self-scout. Self-scout. Yeah, we're going to self-scout your team here in a moment, Zach. For immediate impact player, you have Kenyon Sadiq, which is an awesome start. For biggest sleeper, you have Jerry Mixon. I think a really nice pick as well. Most excited to watch the football, Dante Dowdell. Another good one. Special. You got a good team. Dang it, Zach. We shouldn't have let you pick first.
You let me go first. You let me go first.
Well, I like going third because I like having the control.
The hot corner, but it screwed you in the end. You tried to get cute with your strategy.
I think my team's pretty darn good, but I think you might have me here. Special teams, Cody DeCambra, and then PFF you have Dalen Austin. Give yourself a grade. Reflect. What did you like? What were you disappointed with here?
I'm gonna go A-. I really, if I could have found out a way to get Roderick Pleasant as my special teams guy, I think it would have been a perfect draft. But I got snaked a little bit on that one. So no, I'm happy with it. I was as soon as you told me last night that I was gonna get the first pick, I was like, all right, we're going immediate impact. We're going Kenyon Sadiq. Like that's just send the ticket in right there. But no, I'm happy to get Dowdell on the team. I'm happy to get Jerry Mixon, Cody. I think it's a good team. I like it. I'm happy with the draft strategy today.
Yeah, no, I think you deserve some credit. The strategy was solid. Picking first does help, but you address all the positions. Like genuinely, my board here, you had guys I liked at every spot besides the special teams one. Like I had all those guys near the top of my board. So good work, Jared.
Thank you.
Let me run through
Hello.
yours, and you can give me your own self-scout here, your own evaluation. You had
of course.
Blake Purchase as your immediate impact. You had Solomon Davis as your sleeper. You had, and this is a crazy pick. This is still the pick of the day. Mateo Uiagalelei as the most excited to watch for the football. Jared, breaking news: Mateo will be playing tight end, or just regularly involved on defense with plays where he has possession somehow, which would be.
I mean, tell me you wouldn't be excited to watch Mateo run around the field.
I also would be excited if he was on defense and just picked the ball up and ran it for a touchdown. So I guess that qualifies, right? Okay. Special teams ace, you had Roderick Pleasant, which was a really nice pick. And then PFF, I'm still salty about this because this was my immediate guy. He snaked for me right at the end. George Silva, the JUCO offensive tackle. How would you grade it? What do you think?
I think I give myself like a B, maybe a B plus. I'm actually kind of happy with my draft. I still think that Neel, I think you had a much better draft than I did. Yeah, I think I put myself in a good position with Purchase as my first pick. I decided to draft low, kind of like a baseball strategy where you draft some guy, you pay him a little under slot, you save money for later rounds, and you use it then. I really like my Roderick Pleasant as a special teams. I'm sticking with Solomon Davis. I think he can be somebody. George Silva, I think, was the steal of the century. And I had two guys who I picked right from you two. So I think, it's a B in general in the grading, but in my mind, it's an A plus. I just stole two guys right out from both of you.
That was actually going to be my analysis. I think you might have, of the three teams, the weakest team, but you also stole guys from both of us that make us both really mad. So that's an A plus day.
That's why I'm here.
I don't see what
I'm
else
going to be the Miami Heat. I'm not going to win anything,
just
but I'm going to piss you off.
Yeah, you're the chaos agent of this staff. No, I genuinely have not gotten over not being able to take Silva as my immediate impact because, as I'll get to with mine, I have the weakest immediate impact and debatable where my PFF is. I think I nailed the other three categories, so I feel really, really good about the sleeper, most excited to watch football and special teams ace categories. But Johnny Bones is the immediate impact guy. Genuinely wasn't on my board. Had 4 or 5 names written down. All of them got picked elsewhere, and I kind of had to sleep in the bed I made for myself there because I did save that category for last, and because of it, I ended up with someone further down the board. So that's on me. Sleeper Tatum Tuioti, loved that pick. I think that's, to me, that was who I had to top my board there. Most excited to watch football. Jurion Dickey, that also took him out for other categories that you guys could use, which I thought was important. Special teams, Luke Dunn. Again, I think that's a no-brainer. Guy's literally going to be – I mean, if he's not the punter this year, that's good? Bad?
Then who is?
I don't know.
Bad.
That means somebody else – that means he's either really bad and no one else is good, or somebody else took a huge step. But I don't – based upon what we saw this year, I'm very skeptical that's the thing that happens.
He's not on scholarship, is he?
Luke Dunn's on scholarship.
Luke Dunn
is he on scholarship? Okay.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, he better be good then. He better be the punter.
Yeah. Although I have never seen him, I've never seen tangible or non-tangible evidence of him kicking a football.
Yeah, we've never actually seen him do the thing he does, so we have no idea if he's good.
I've seen him play basketball. I've seen him in cricket gear. I've never seen him kick a football.
Well, the first time we'll see him kick a football will be hopefully sometime soon. I actually don't know if he's an early enrollee, so I'm not going to put that out there or not. I don't think he's enrolled yet. But regardless, I took him, and then PFF, I took Iapani Lalelu. And I thought that was solid because I liked my reasoning for it. Wasn't who was at the top of my board necessarily, but he was somebody I went in thinking, hey, I might take him. Yeah, I'll give myself a B plus because I think I aced 3 categories and then I did not do well. I really am kicking myself for where I ended up with the meeting. Not that I don't think Johnny Bones could have a big role, but that was somebody who I just didn't anticipate I would take. So,
PFF grades you at like a 95 because you were really good at one thing or two things, but the other things, whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
doesn't matter.
My sleeper excited watch grades are really high, but my immediate grade low. I think my draft strategy grade, I think, was solid for a couple rounds, but I took a risk and it didn't pay off. Okay. Any last thoughts here on this before we get a little Klemm talk in?
I really wanted to get Ashton Cozart in there somewhere because I like him. I like his tape a lot. I think he's going to be a good player, but he just didn't really. He didn't really fit at the top of any boards. Like I could see him. I mean, he was on my sleeper list before we determined that non-blue chip players because I see him having a really good career. But Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't know if I see him as a special teams guy either, but I don't know. I think he deserves mention as somewhere.
Yeah,
I think he would be excited, or the player exciting to catch the ball. Like, I think that's the only place where he ends up.
He did return punts in high school, so there's that. I don't think he'll be returning punts at Oregon though, because I think there's just too much competition. Yeah, I'm with Jared. If he was going to slot, the guy with the football would be where he'd fit. Although, like, what he does with the football, and this isn't trying to be critical of him as a player at all, is less exciting than what I see Dickey doing, Dowdell doing,
Mateo
doing, obviously, because I mean, if Mateo touches the football, it's really exciting. I should have just picked somebody.
Honestly,
good.
Go ahead.
Exactly.
It's your podcast.
I should just pick Bryce Bolton as most excited to watch the football game.
Yeah.
It's really exciting if this offensive lineman got the ball.
Norris Wilson.
Yeah.
Big G. Yeah.
And honestly, the thing that I get most excited about with Cozart comes when he doesn't have the football, because it's his route running and his footwork that is so impressive, that gets you so hyped. And then, when he catches the ball, it's like very cool. But
because he's not historically a after the catch guy. He's I just burnt my guy and I'm now way behind the defense. Right. I'm going to catch it and walk into the end zone. So that's kind of also why he wasn't like a logical pick for.
That would be exciting though, to see him catch it in the end zone and be like, wow. That's a touchdown. That's exciting.
I guess
that's exciting.
Yeah, Jared Jared really bending, or what the
it's just players excited to see have the football, and Mateo Uyunglele tops the list. It's like if we did this last year and I picked Noah Sewell. Yeah, you remember how excited people were when Noah Sewell scored,
or when Josh Connerly scored, or when Bo Nix scored.
Yeah, goodbye, Neel.
Well, with Neel gone now, we can do what we really wanted to do on this podcast, which is talk about Adrian Klemm. Yeah, which is just trash him on our podcast and have
sick master set up, Neel. Sick.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do some Klemm talk, and he can, when he rejoins, we'll get his thoughts. But I learned about this as I was getting the podcast set up, because I slept till about 8:45, and news broke. What was that, about 7:00 this morning Pacific time?
8:05.
8:05.
Pete Thamel. Yeah.
Pete Thamel tweeted out that Adrian Klemm, Oregon's offensive line coach, would no longer be Oregon's offensive line coach because he's taken off. Greener pastures. Jared, what are your thoughts on this? We had thought, based upon what Dan Lanning said 5 days ago, that there were no more staff moves. I think the more I think about his wording on that in retrospect, it's in line with what he said about not expecting anyone to opt out of the draft before Noah Sewell opted out of the draft. Or opted out to enter the draft and play in the bowl game. Mm-hmm. So maybe we shouldn't have really took him at, not that we don't want to believe him at face value, but maybe we were being naive to think that this wasn't still going to happen.
Yeah, he's just put it out. Dan put it out there originally, like, oh, we don't expect anything to happen. It's like, okay, well, we might have been probably able to see that one coming, but yeah, this is a pretty big development for Oregon. It's, the Patriots originally interviewed him to be their offensive coordinator, which I think caught a lot of people by surprise. That quickly morphed into offensive line coach position. Klemm was most recently with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2021 as their offensive line coach. So he has experience in the NFL being an offensive line coach. I think this ultimately came down to financial compensation. I really do, because that's what Thamel reported. Position coaches and coordinators in college usually make comparable, if not more, amount of money than they do in the NFL. If you're a really good head coach in the NFL, you'll make significantly more. But other than that, position coaches are kind of the way to go. And that might be because of a higher responsibility in terms of recruiting, and you don't have to do any of that in the NFL. But because Thamel threw in the fact that he was taking a raise from Oregon, and Adrian Klemm makes a good amount of money from Oregon. I think it's in like $700,000 to $800,000, which I think he's worth it. I think he's worth that at the end of the day. But I think because Thamel put that in his initial report, I think that was a big factor in his recruitment to New England. And again, I warned the audience, I warned our message board that the last couple of years, as a Patriot fan, this is what the Patriots have been doing. Bill Belichick has been taking people that he knows, former players, former coaches who are on the free agency market, and giving them roles in the program, or not the program, in the team, to maybe do something they're unqualified for, to maybe do something that he knows that they can do. And it's a lot of former Patriot players. It's a lot of former Patriot personnel. And that's exactly what Adrian Klemm is. So I'm not surprised at all that he took this spot with the Patriots.
Zach, what do you think the impact is here for Oregon? I think Jared did a good job of explaining the kind of some of the whys behind Klemm leaving, but what does this do for Oregon? Because I think this is significant. One of the stronger units this last year, obviously, and Klemm was leading it. It's done a good job revitalizing the program with talent. You look at who's expected to start this year. A lot of those are guys he played a part in bringing here. What's kind of your take on kind of where this puts Oregon? It's a weird time of the year too to be trying to find a replacement coach. We're in February now. Usually you've got your kind of your staff locked down by this point. Kind of what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's kind of tough to assess how good. I mean, Oregon was a really good offensive line last year. We know that, but how much of that was Klemm as a coach, or how much of it was the players that were already on the roster because Mario Cristobal? I think it was a really good mesh of both worlds that led them to be one of the best offensive lines in the nation. But like you said, the fact that this comes so late in the cycle, and that I think it's going to be harder than normal for Dan Lanning to find a replacement here, because a lot of the good coaches already have their jobs and they're kind of off the market. But I think one of the biggest impacts as well is on the recruiting trail, because Klemm is a really good recruiter. I think he had a big hand in bringing Josh Connerly here. I know he got Johnny Cornelius here, Junior Angulo. He's a really good recruiter, and I know a lot of people look at the fact that Oregon didn't get a ton of blue chippers on the offensive line in the 2023 cycle, but they did really, really well in the transfer portal. And offensive line is sometimes a place where I may be more likely to want a transfer portal guy rather than a prep guy coming in, because you have that experience. And when you've got someone like Oregon this year who is hoping to make a run for the playoff, you need experience on that line. You don't need development guys that can be good in a couple of years. So I think that, this loss definitely hurts the Ducks. It's, we don't need to sugarcoat that at all. It's going to be tough for them. I wish he was staying, but it's, Lanning has made really good hires in the past when he's been forced to replace some of these people, or just make his initial hires when he came to Oregon. So I think that a lot of Duck fans should probably feel pretty comfortable in trusting who he brings in next, that it's going to be, an adequate hire and someone that really is good for them going forward.
Yeah, and I think the other thing because we're talking about this before the podcast, people are so reactionary these days with anything that kind of impedes what's perceived as positive momentum, and this certainly doesn't. This is, as you said, not a good thing at all for the program. However, if you want to look at it from a positive point of view, which I'll choose to do and kind of provide that perspective, he didn't leave the cupboard bare at all. Like I've been really on this podcast for a while, since they landed Cornelius and Angulo and retained basically everybody else that mattered on the offensive line this offseason that they could. It's obviously 4 players graduated, just about what the potential for this line could be, even without the experience that made last year's group so good. And I continue to think this is a group that could be very, very talented. I think there's a lot of really impressive physical tools amongst this group. As Jared said, there are multiple offensive tackle bodies. That had not been the case in the last couple of years. Like TJ Bass, for me, has always been better as an interior offensive lineman, and yet he was their best left tackle, and there was no argument around it. There was no way of, I think Bass would have rather played inside. I think if Klemm could figure out a rotation that worked, he would have preferred to have Bass inside, but they didn't have the body. So what did they do this offseason? They went out, they got Cornelius, who's a proven right tackle. They're developing Connerly, who's a really high-end upside left tackle, and then George Silva, who dang it, Jared, you stole him in our draft we just did, is somebody who fits the bill as a prototypical offensive tackle body type. So the cupboard is not bare. I think there's a ton of talent still on this roster, and I think in the short term it's not going to be something that kills you, at least from a personnel perspective. Where you do get some concerns is who are you replacing with, as you said, Zach? Who are you able to bring in, and what kind of a coach are they from a player development perspective, from a culture perspective, from an in-game kind of making adjustments perspective, all of those sort of things, from a mentorship perspective. That's kind of the area you just don't know. And you also don't really know with Klemm, as you kind of pointed to, Zach, of like, this was going to be a big year to kind of define his job as kind of a developer, and like some of those things, like We knew he was a good recruiter. We knew he did a really good job with a really high-end group this last year. This upcoming season, I think we all expect a lot of talents there, but it is unproven to a certain degree. And Klemm would have had an opportunity to sort of prove himself. Now, whoever gets this job going forward will be kind of put in a position where they get to prove themselves with, again, I think a lot of talent there, but we've never seen most of these guys we haven't seen play at Oregon, and we certainly haven't seen them play as a cohesive five before.
Mm-hmm. I think
I've got a question.
I don't know.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Go ahead.
No,
I was just gonna say a little tidbit and then maybe go on a rant. So Neel, you ask the question first, and then I'll go on a rant.
Do you think this has any impact in transfer portal or players moving in or out because Klemm is now gone?
Well, I was gonna mention that this is a good timing if you're Oregon, because kids can't enter the transfer portal right now. So this coach is going to leave, and until after spring football, until they go through a full spring football with the new offensive line coach and either learn that they like him or not, then they announce that they're going to transfer. So I think, this could probably have some transfer impact down the road, but it certainly isn't going to happen right now because it just can't. So I think maybe Klemm did Oregon a favor here.
The timing of this is like, I don't know if this is the right, but it's like entrapment. Like these students are enrolled, their position coach leaves, they can't go anywhere till May. They're forced to be. I'm just joking. Like I don't think anyone's being held hostage at all, but like it is a weird thing where Jared's right. Like I imagine
even if they wanted to.
I imagine that there's a level of disappointment amongst Cornelius and Angelau, who obviously signed up in part to play under Klemm. Maybe even Connerly, who obviously was recruited by him, other players who've been brought in. However, there's not an opportunity right now for them to take off. And that gives you, for Oregon's sake, 3 months about here to let those emotions maybe die down and then go through spring, have whoever that new replacement coach is, maybe prove to those guys what the vision is, that this is a coach you want to play for, and just sell themselves on it. But now I think that is going to be something we're wondering when we get back into to May of is anybody jump ship from that offensive line group that maybe was a Klemm guy that no longer likes whoever the replacement is quite as much.
All right, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here real quick.
Rant away.
Seen a lot of people on the social media universe, which again is not the best place to take my my poll of the general Oregon fan population's opinions. A lot of folks are upset about the constant turnover here at Oregon. I just want to say I think it's accelerated to the point. Thank you, Erik, for the banner. It's accelerated to the point where it's hard to comprehend because Oregon loses a coaching staff before last season. So everybody's in and then everybody's out. And now a whole new staff comes in. So that's a lot of turnover right there. In years past, there has also been some turnover, but it's been in a lot of constant flux. And I understand that, Oregon fans are used to, you guys included, like the Mike Bellotti eras where guys are just chilling there for 10 to 15 years. That's just never going to happen anymore. It doesn't happen in nearly any industry on earth anymore. And maybe it's because we're in the the instant gratification and click satisfaction era of time, but it's just not going to happen. And so that being said, the coaches who have left Oregon staff this offseason, Kenny Dillingham, Matt Pallage, and now Adrian Klemm, they've all upgraded. I don't see why this is a problem. Kenny Dillingham goes to become a head coach, Matt Pallage defensive coordinator, and Klemm back to the Patriots to be an NFL offensive line coach. Yeah. Those are all upgrades. And I always try to put myself in those people's shoes. And it's like, what would I do? It's like, hell yeah, I'm going to go upgrade my career path. And then I also get to make more money. Darn rats. This is just going to keep happening. It happens to every program in the country. And I know that you can point to how Washington's offensive coordinator turned down the Alabama offensive coordinator, which, yeah, that's an upgrade. But guess what? If Washington has another good season, that Ryan Grubb is going to be a head coach, and that's even more of an upgrade. And in Alabama, you might need a year or two because right now, if you go to Alabama, they don't have a clear quarterback. So maybe it's going to take a year or two there at Alabama to get a head coaching position, even though it's just one at Washington. So there are ways to counteract what I'm trying to say and point out obvious obvious people who have stayed multiple years at other Pac-12 programs. But if someone offers you the right position, no matter what career path you're in, you're taking it. And it's funny that people don't think that they wouldn't.
I'm curious to see what they target, who they target. Like what's kind of the type of person they look at. There are, I guess, in theory, there is an internal candidate. I'm trying to pull up his full name here because it's a hard one to pronounce. 1 second here. I'm pulling it up. He's an analyst. He's been working with Klemm for the last couple of years.
Vianney?
Vianney Talamaeveo.
Yeah, he just
Didn't he leave?
He
left to go to what? Northern Arizona,
NAU?
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
but
the OL coach there now.
I bring him up is because you could argue from a continuity perspective, bringing him back, he's going to take an Oregon job over remaining at NAU. In theory, right? That's a name to sort of know. That was a person who'd been here for a couple of years. It's just a weird time, as we've said, in terms of trying to compose a list, because these coaches are all kind of locked in right now. So you're going to have to essentially steal somebody from another Power 5 school. Or I was thinking Vianney because there's a level of continuity there, but I don't know if that's the path they want to go. Shoot, I guess I haven't done the process of going through all of Dan's prior workplaces and who might be available that he has history with there. I haven't gone and seen who, Will Stein's offensive line coach at UTSA might be a really great coach that he wants to bring on, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are the kind of things you have to kind of wonder. Is there anybody that Carlos Loughlin knows from Florida State or Memphis? Is there anybody, Junior Adams knows from his times at Washington and all these different places? So those are the kind of paths you kind of wonder where they'll go. But for me, I don't know if there's sometimes these jobs open and you go this is the person that makes so much sense. I don't know if there's somebody for me right now that fits that. Is there anybody for either of you that just jumps off the screen? You go this is who they should hire.
I don't think so. I mean, when the Klemm news came out, I thought about Vianney right away, and I was like, "Oh, that would have been awesome if he was still in Oregon." And I don't know the logistics if he could turn around to NAU and be like, "Oh no, I'm actually not gonna come. I'm gonna go back there and take the OL coach." I think it may be possible. I don't know if. I mean, I don't know him personally at all.
Possible.
I don't know if that's 100%. In his character that he would want to do that. That seems kind of. I know I would feel slighted as an NAU fan to see that happen, but. Real quick, I wanted to make a point on what Jared was saying. This whole coaches moving on thing so quickly, I think honestly in a sense it's a benefit for the program, because it's gonna get more coaching talent to Eugene, because they see these coaches come to Eugene and have a year or two of success and then go on and move up and level up and find even better jobs. And I think that in the long run, it's going to get you a lot better coaching talent and make it more, attractive job in Eugene. And so I know while it's frustrating to have happen 3 times with 3 really good coaches in one offseason, I think that in the end, you kind of got to take a bird's eye view of this and see that it actually this is a problem that the best teams in college football have. I mean, Alabama deals with this every offseason. Georgia deals with this pretty often. So, it's kind of just the part of the game. And Dan Lanning has said that this offseason. He's like, I'm always encouraging coaches to go find better positions. I want to be that type of program that lifts these guys up and gets them to newer and better spots. So, as we often say on both your podcast and my podcast, fans just need to chill a little bit and notice that Dan Lanning knows what he's doing and that this is not kind of insane to be happening.
Yeah, and to point off of that real quick, if guys were never leaving Oregon, it means that nobody wants them, and there's got to be some sort of an issue there. And yes, another good one.
They should take away this function from me. It's way too dangerous
for you.
I get so distracted with the possibility of throwing a fake CNN banner at the bottom of the screen.
Well, I was just wanted to keep going off that, where if you're Oregon and these guys are getting poached all the time, it's fine. Like Neel said, you bring in talent. You bring in guys who are talented, who understand that if they do well, similar to how it is in an SEC program, then you can get a head coaching job, or you can get an upgrade of whatever position coach you are. And and schools recognize your talents and they see you on national television all the time, and your team is good. I think it's a win-win for Oregon. I know that it's frustrating that this happens, and it's happened a lot in the last couple of years. It happened under Mario a lot. I think the only guy who really never left was Alex Mirabal, but those guys are, attached at the hip together. I guess it would be like shoulder and hip for Cristobal and Mirabal, but no disrespect, Alex, but it's just how it would work. I just think it's going to happen. Yeah. These things are going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. I don't think it's a bad thing that it's happening for the exact reasons that Neel said. It's more talent coming to the program. I think that's fine. And until Dan Lanning screws up his hires and PC word to use there, I think you just got to, trust him there. I think it's fine.
Yeah, we'll wrap here but this is what I said. I don't remember what the context of what it was, but on a recent podcast of how you should expect a dozen or more transfers out each year, and you should expect 2 to 3 coaches to leave too. And that should just be what you're anticipating. I know it hurts when it's coaches that are pretty vital and like pretty high up the pecking order in terms of the hierarchy on staff. Like that, it's not ideal when you lose your offensive coordinator, arguably your second or third in command on offense, your second in command probably on defense with Powledge behind Lou Ploy. But as we've established, that's really not that outlandish. It's not that unreasonable. This is not, to me, any sign of cultural issues of people not liking to working with Dan. Everybody who has coached under Dan Lanning has talked so much about how much they like coaching under Dan Lanning. That was what, when Chris Hampton spoke to Joey Mack on the in-house show last week, he said the number one thing that kind of stood out about this opportunity was to work for Dan Lanning, somebody who it sounds like he had some sort of a relationship with, but not a very long, maybe, I don't know, very intimate relationship, but somebody that they know from, coaching circles. So I'm not at all concerned. I think that just with the big picture of their last 3 coaches this offseason, I do think we'll now have to kind of see what they do with this replacement. But short term, this season, the talent is there, barring a mass exodus after spring, which I don't think anybody should anticipate taking place, even though I'm sure there are now Oregon fans that will talk themselves into stressing about that happening. All right, that's going to do it for us on this Monday morning Odds and Audibles podcast. Thank you very much to Zach Neel of Ducks Wire for jumping in and joining us on our debut draft. Maybe we'll get this exercise going again sometime next year.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I can't believe this is your first time on the show.
I've been waiting for the call.
First and last.
Just put out the bat signal. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I killed you guys. I killed you guys on the draft exercise, so you aren't bringing me back.
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't want him. We don't want the ringer back. We need more. We'll figure somebody out. Jared Denny we could have kicked his ass on the draft. I don't know why we didn't invite him. That was a mistake.
Yeah.
Anyway, but for Zach, for Jared, and myself, thanks for listening to this Odds and Audibles podcast, and we will talk to you folks later.
Peace.